Hi, my name is Scott Stark and I'm the creator of Nations and Empires, and today I'm going to be filming a quick how to play video. This is going to be sort of like an informal, if I was teaching a friend how to play sort of a teaching video. So let's just jump right into it. You've got four types of standard cards, all right? You've got your scientist cards, like you can see right here. You've got your leader cards right over here. You've got your event cards right here. And you've got your structure cards right here. When you begin the game, you're going to shuffle all of these into a deck called the standard deck. So all of these are going to be your standard deck. Then over here, these big cards are called the nation cards. And you're also going to shuffle all of these together. When you start the game, everybody is going to receive 2 nation cards at random. You distribute these to every player until everybody has 2. Then you are going to distribute the standard cards to every player until everybody has 5 of these cards. Now, we're going to start one thing at a time. When you receive your nation cards, right, you've got your 2 nation cards, you have 2 options. You can either place both of them down, or if there's one you don't particularly like, you can place one down, and the other one you can discard and leave on the side, and then purchase another nation card down the road. But once your nations are put down, they are permanent, you cannot replace them. Now, when you put your nation card down, every nation starts with 2 military tokens, as you can see right here. I'll get more into what these tokens do a little later. 2 economy tokens, these yellow ones, and 1 civil liberty token. So every nation starts with these 5 tokens. Now, we're going to quickly move on to leader cards, all right? So this is what your standard leader card will look like. As you can see right here, it's going to have military, economy, civil liberty, or a mixture or one of these 3 types of tokens written in the box over here. This tells you what your leader can produce. If your leader has 2 options, like military and economy, just like Julius Caesar over here does, that means that you have the option of producing either military or economy every turn. So let's do a little trial right over here. Let's say I've got Julius Caesar in my hand. The goal is to place 1 leader in your nation so that they can start producing tokens, because producing tokens is how you're going to win, either by accumulating enough tokens to win or by accumulating enough military tokens to defeat all your opponents. So we've got the leader card, we've got Julius Caesar, and keep in mind you can only have 1 leader in your nation at a time. So we put Julius Caesar in here. When you put a leader in your nation, he's only going to stay in that nation for 5 turns. After 5 turns, he gets discarded. So to keep track of what turn you're on, you're going to grab one of these dice over here, and you put it on there. It's 1 because it's his first turn. So it's his first turn in here. As we established previously, it says military and economy here. So you get to choose which one of these 2 tokens he produces. So let's say, since it's the beginning, we want to solidify our country's defense. So we are going to produce a military token. Then let's say we end our turn. Next turn comes around, this goes to 2. And now we can produce another token. All right, so that's the basis of how leader cards work. Now, there are 2 very important other factors that go into leader cards. The first is these traits at the bottom. You see the circular symbols at the bottom? These are traits, and every single one of these does something completely different. And this is where the uniqueness of your leader card comes from, because this is going to allow you to strategize. It is going to allow you to subvert expectations, to develop in ways that your opponents may not be developing. So they are extremely important, and later on I'll get into what each one of these do. But at any point, you can grab one of these little reference cards and reference what every single one of these traits do. It's very handy to have by you when you have a leader or when your opponents have leaders down, to check what their traits do, because it really will give you an idea of what they might be up to. Now, the other thing to take a look at on your leader card is in the bottom right of the box, there's going to be a plus or minus with the symbol of a token next to it. This means that on their 3rd turn, so let's say we just finished our 2nd turn, now it's my 3rd turn. You put the 3 on here on the dice. On its 3rd turn, before you do anything else, you need to add or subtract whatever that token is next to that plus or minus symbol. So here it says +1 military token. So at the start of our turn, we grab a military token, and we have an additional military token on the 3rd turn. It's a little bonus that Julius Caesar has. And then after that, you can still choose to produce military or economy. So you get to produce essentially 2 tokens in one turn. You've got the bonus one and you've got your standard production. Now, another thing to note on leader cards is that they will have their nation or empire of origin written on here. Here it says Roman Empire, right? So there is no penalty for putting a leader in a nation that he does not belong to, or that she does not belong to. But if you put him in their correct nation or empire, you will get bonuses. Let's say, for example, let's go ahead and grab the Roman Empire right over here. So let's say we have the Roman Empire down, right? And let's say, it starts with 2 military, 2 economy, and 1 civil liberty, like our other nations do. If you put Julius Caesar in there, or anyone who has the Roman Empire written on their card, they will produce a bonus token on the first turn and on the 5th turn in play. So let's say it's his first turn in here, right? We put the 1 on here. So you get to produce a bonus token of your choice from what he can produce. So let's say I want to produce a military token as a bonus. So I get that. And I would also like to produce an economy token as part of his standard production. So there we go. We just produced 2 tokens of our choice on his first turn. And we get to repeat that on his 5th turn. So any leader that is in their correct nation gets to do that. So there is an advantage to matching your leader to the correct nation. And some nations have more leaders than others in their deck. So some nations may be more favorable than others, but at the same time, every nation has a unique ability that corresponds just to that nation. So the amount of leaders that a nation has isn't the only factor to consider when deciding whether or not you want to use that nation. Because some of these nations have very unique abilities that might match your playstyle a little more, or that might be where you want to go, with the game. So that's that. Now, let's move on really quickly to scientists. These are very standard. You can have 1 scientist in your nation at a time alongside a leader. If a leader's in there, you can still throw a scientist in there. And a scientist stays in the nation for 5 turns, just like your leader does. And they produce 1 science token every turn. That's all they do. It's very standard, very simple. That's all the scientist does. Science is very important. Again, I'll get into what these tokens do a little later on, but they all have very unique attributes. And you'll definitely want to accumulate science as you play. So scientists are very valuable. Now, we're going to move on to our event cards. These are the event cards. This is what they look like. You've got a bunch of different ones. And for every single event card, they all tell you exactly what they do on the card itself. So it's very self-explanatory, and each one of these event cards has some unique ability, and you can use as many event cards as you want on your turn. The only 2 event cards that you can use on somebody else's turn are the reinforcement cards, which aid you in battle, and the counterintelligence card, which cancels out somebody's event that's directed towards you. But it's written on the card, so it's not anything that you have to memorize. So these are very useful. They all have their uses. They all have, unique abilities. So accumulating a lot of event cards is definitely something you might want to do. Now, the last type of cards are structure cards. These are cards that you build into your nation, and they will provide you with bonuses. Again, every single structure card will have the cost written on them, which is how many tokens you have to pay to build them into your nation. And they will tell you what they do. They are all permanent. They stay in your nation once you build them. Some of them will produce a certain amount of tokens after a certain amount of turns, and others have more unique abilities. But it's all written on the structure cards. So 1 factory will produce 1 economy token every 5 turns. On its own, that might not seem like a lot, but if you build these near the beginning of your gameplay, they will stack up. And if you have 3, 4, 5 factories in your nation, you really start to feel those economy tokens coming in. So now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the tokens themselves. The military tokens are what you will use to fight your opponent's nations and defend your own nations. They are incredibly important. If you do not have any military tokens, I assure you your nation will not last very long. Now, let's talk about the economy tokens. The economy tokens can be used to purchase a variety of different things. When you grab either the rulebook or some of these reference cards over here, they will actually detail everything that an economy token can purchase. So, when you have the standard deck, right, which is all of these cards put together, you don't draw a card at the start of your turn like in a lot of other games. Instead, you must purchase cards using economy tokens. Oh, and before I forget, when your leader card finishes his 5th turn, and it's the start of your 6th turn, and the card gets discarded, you get to draw a standard card for free, assuming that the leader card has finished their 5 turns. Only for leader cards, not scientist cards. So that and purchasing them with economy or science tokens is the only way you can get new cards from the standard deck. Similarly, you can also buy a new nation card if at the beginning you chose to only put one of your nation cards down. So let's say you start your nation with 2 economy tokens, you can spend one of those economy tokens to buy a new nation. And maybe it'll be one that you like better or that fits your playstyle a little better. The economy tokens can also be used to purchase civil liberty tokens. They can also be used to purchase military tokens. The conversion rate might not be ideal. It might be, under specific scenarios that you might want to do that, but not a regular thing. But yeah, so that's the basis of the economy tokens. The science tokens operate very similarly. They you can trade them for civil liberty tokens, for economy tokens, and for cards from the standard deck. But the science tokens have a very unique purchase that they can do. If you have 15 science tokens, you can purchase a nuke token. And with a nuke token, you can completely obliterate somebody's nation in the blink of an eye. If you use a nuke token on an opponent's nation, that nation is completely discarded along with all of the tokens inside of it. There are some wait periods when you decide to spend your science tokens to develop a nuke. You have a one-way turn period until the nuke has finished being constructed, but it's obviously one of the most useful tokens in the game. Really quick note, when you buy economy tokens, when you buy a standard card from the standard deck with economy tokens, the first card you purchase on your turn only costs 1 economy token. But if you want to purchase a second card or a third card or a fourth card on that same turn, it's going to cost you 2 economy tokens instead of 1. So before we go on any further, I just want to detail exactly how you win, because you have 2 ways to win. You can win militarily by raising or annexing every other nation, annexing, or colonizing every other nation on the board, all of your opponent's nations, or you can win by accumulating tokens. Specifically, you need to meet 2 of the 3 following criteria. You need to have 15 science, 15 economy, or 10 civil liberty, 2 of those 3 in a singular nation. So if this nation has 15 economy, let's say, and they have 15 science, they automatically win, right? Or if they have, let's say, 15 economy and 10 civil liberty, you win. So those are the 2 ways to win nations and empires. Either gather your resources and accumulate enough tokens to win, or militarily dominate every other opponent in the game. Now we're going to talk about specifically that. We're going to talk about war in combat. So when you declare war on somebody, you must discard 1 civil liberty token as a penalty for declaring war on that person. Afterwards, you must wait a turn cycle until it's your turn again before you can actually attack that other person. And that person cannot attack you on their turn either until it's back to you. When you decide to attack another opponent's nation, the way these battles is going to go depends entirely on the amount of military tokens that you have and the amount of military tokens that your opponent has. So let's say, right, that we declared war on this nation right over here. And let's say that they have 3 military tokens and we have 5 in ours. When you decide to attack somebody else, you're going to count up the differences in military tokens. Now, quick side note, some leader traits will influence how you count these military tokens. For example, let's just take a quick example. Richard, the Lionheart, he's got the soldier trait that counts essentially as 1 military token. So you would count these military tokens, even though there's only 3, you would count it as 4, okay? But we're not going to do that right now. So 5 military tokens here, 3 military tokens here. You're going to reference in the rule book and in the reference cards the dice rolls over here. So if you and your opponent have the same amount of military tokens, you would need to roll a 1, 2, or 3 to have a successful attack. Now, what does a successful attack mean? A successful attack means that you would lose 1 military token while your opponent loses 2 military tokens. If you fail your attack, right, meaning that let's say you have the same amount of military tokens and you roll a 4, 5, or 6. If you failed that attack, then you would lose 2 military tokens and your opponent would lose 1. That's the basis of it. Now, there are exceptions when it comes to traits, right? Some traits like the strategist trait might negate the fact that you lose any tokens at all if you roll properly. But that's the foundational aspect of the battling. Now, they have 3 military tokens, we have 5. When you reference the dice rolls over here on the rulebook, you would see that if you have 1, 2, or 3 more tokens than your opponent, you would need to roll a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So let's say I roll and I get a 4. I got a 6, so that would be a fail. But if I got a 4, that would be successful, and they discard 2 military tokens, and I would discard 1. And I would have 4 military tokens left. You cannot attack the same nation with the nation you just attacked twice. Okay? If you had a second nation that was also at war, then you could perform a second attack with that nation. Also, a side note, when you have 2 nations and you declare war, your nations declare war independently. So let's say I had Nigeria over here and I have the Roman Empire over here. If the Roman Empire declares war on the United Kingdom over here, that does not mean that Nigeria is at war with the United Kingdom. I would have to declare war separately. These nations function independently. Now, let's say that you get your opponent's military tokens down to 0. What does that mean? That means that now you have essentially conquered this nation, and you have 2 options. You can either raise this nation, and if you raise a nation, that means essentially that they are entirely, the nation is entirely discarded, and you take all of their tokens, except the civil liberty tokens, from that nation into yours. And this nation would be gone. That's what raising is. Annexing means that you take this nation for yourself. So let's say we decided to annex the United Kingdom. What happens is that for 5 turns, you cannot put any leaders in here. You cannot produce any tokens in here. For 5 turns, it's essentially in a rebellious state, and you can place as many military tokens from your nation that attacked it into this one to defend it from other players. And if you can defend it for those 5 turns, it is now your nation, and you have a 3rd or 4th nation. And you can treat it the same as all your other nations and put leaders and scientists and structures in it. Some traits, like the Conquer trait, would change that wait time period from 5 turns to 2 turns. Again, we'll get into that more when we deal with the traits individually later on. But this is the basis of battling. If, for example, just to elaborate a little bit, if you have 7 or more tokens than your opponent, you automatically win. You don't need to roll a dice. You automatically lose 1 military token while they automatically lose 2. Now, if you have 10 or more military tokens than your opponent, you lose 1 military token still, but they lose 3 instead of 2. So you are really militarily dominating them. Now we're going to get into trading, and then we're going to get into informal and written agreements. So trading, you can trade cards from your hand or tokens from your nations with other players, other opponents, whenever you want. There's no limit. You can just negotiate with other players and trade as you wish. However, we're going to go into informal and written agreements now, which are a little more complicated than trading and do have some circumstances and some conditions. Now, an informal agreement is just an informal agreement. It's literally you telling your friend, hey, I'm not going to attack you next turn. They say, okay, cool. And you can still decide to attack them next turn if you want to play like that. There's no restrictions. There's no anything. It's just, 2 friends having an informal agreement. But written agreements are entirely different. With a written agreement, you must actually write out the terms of your agreement, and then you and your opponent must sign that agreement, and you must both abide by it. And if one of you breaks that agreement, there are severe penalties. Whoever breaks the agreement must discard 5 civil liberty tokens from their nations combined, which is substantial. And they are also barred from creating a written agreement with any other player in the game for the rest of the game. And if you cannot discard 5 civil liberty tokens, you must start dipping into your economy tokens. So they are very binding, and for the most part, you will want to avoid getting into a written agreement unless you plan on following it through. Written agreements also cost 1 economy token from each player to form, unless you currently have a leader with the diplomat trait. The diplomat trait negates the cost of the formal agreement for both yourself and your opponent. So again, these traits are very useful, and we will get into them soon. Really quick, I want to backtrack to what happens if you do not have specific tokens in your nation. So if you do not have any military tokens in your nation, you are leaving yourself wide open to attack from anybody. They could come in there and raise or annex your nation whenever you want. But these are not direct penalties. These are, it's not a direct consequence written into the game. However, if you do not have any civil liberty token at the end of your turn, if you have no civil liberty tokens at the end of your turn, let's say Roman Empire, I end my turn, no civil liberty tokens, I must discard 2 economy tokens. Now, if at the end of my turn I have no economy tokens, let's say I had a civil liberty token. If at the end of my turn I had no economy tokens, I must discard 2 military tokens and 1 science token, if I have any. And if at the end of your turn, your nation doesn't have any military, civil liberty, or economy tokens inside of it, it is discarded. The nation has gone into ruin, it's out of there, and you cannot replace it with another nation. Remember, even if your nation gets raised, annexed, or discarded for any reason, you can never replace it with another nation. And another quick note, some nation abilities will allow you to create very unique structures that are not in the game. Like, for example, South Africa can create a mine, which is seen right here on this little black token. If you want to convert a structure into a mine, it's very simple. The way you do it, you put it into the nation, and then it tells you can convert it, gives you the details on how to do that, and then you just place the little black token that represents a mine on top of the structure, and that's that. Okay, so I'm actually going to explain the traits in a separate video because I don't want to make the video too long. This is just a brief overview of how to play. And that's all this was. If you want more in-depth explanations and everything, of course, a rulebook is the best way to go. It goes into everything in detail. But yeah, that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed how to play Nations and Empires.